Good afternoon. In this debate against my good friend, Professor Visser, I would speak about in favor to induce labor for all women at 39 weeks. Unfortunately, I have no conflict of interests. When we are speaking about timing of delivery, it's all about balance. Induction of labor by itself has a potential risk of increasing the risk for cesarean section. It may be associated with neonatal morbidity, especially if it's before 39 weeks of gestation, and it costs a lot of money and needs a lot of personnel in order to do induction for many women. However, by expectant management, you have some kind of risk that may jeopardize both the mother and the fetus. We are not the first one who thought about induction of labor, and Hippocrates by itself believed that women should be really shaken violently just in order to achieve vaginal delivery. Sorry about the presentation. What are the concerns with induction of labor? It may potentially increase the risk for cesarean section, especially when there is a failed induction. It may cause fetal distress due to hyperstimulation. It may cause neonatal morbidity, longer labor, chorioamnionitis, and women experience, it's important, who are seeking, especially those who are seeking for natural birth. Speaking about costs and resources is important as well in cases when women would like to achieve vaginal delivery and not really by induction of delivery. I will try to speak in this debate about three issues. How often do we really induce labor? Does induction of labor by itself increase the risk of cesarean section? And should we consider elective induction of labor? So how often do we really induce labor? Well, we love to induce labor. And in the last few years, the rate or the prevalence of induction of labor rose dramatically. And you can see for yourself that the amount of labors that are really now induced is almost 30%. In the United States, when you look at what happened in the last 25 years, the prevalence or the rate of induction of labor rose from 9 to 10%, and today, in 2024, about 35% of all deliveries are undergoing induction of labor. So basically, the main question is, does induction of labor by itself increase the risk of cesarean section? The pioneer study by the group of Oded Langer in 1997 looked at induction of labor in women who were compared to women who came in spontaneous onset of delivery. And they stratified women by the Bishop score, and they have showed that as the Bishop score is lower, and that was true for nulliparous and multiparous as well, the risk for cesarean section increased dramatically. However, they compared induction of labor to women who came to the delivery ward with spontaneous onset of delivery. So yes, if you compare women that are undergoing induction of labor to those who are undergoing spontaneous onset of labor, yes, induction of labor may be associated with 2 to 4-fold risk for cesarean section. However, what we really need to compare is women undergoing induction of labor to those who are having expectant management, and then to stratify them to those who enter spontaneous onset of labor or undergoing induction of labor by means of the result by a cesarean section, either planned or urgent. And if you see the number of studies on induction of labor, and you can see for the last few years, there is a tremendous increase in the number of studies dealing with pregnancy outcome in women undergoing induction of labor. So basically, when induction of labor was compared to expected management, it was shown that either the cervix is favorable or not, and if you consider it as a high risk or low risk pregnancy, the risk for cesarean section is lower by 12% if you are doing induction of labor. In a meta-analysis in the British Journal, when 37 randomized control studies comparing induction of labor versus expected management, and you can see for yourself the indication in the studies for induction of labor, either macrosomia, diabetes, twins, etc., it was really shown that induction of labor by itself is associated with 20% less cesarean section in comparison to women who were managed by expected management. So basically 17% less cesarean section in women undergoing induction of labor. In another meta-analysis and in elective systematic review, about 25 observational studies and 11 randomized control studies were included, and the same result were shown, that having induction of labor is associated with lower rate of cesarean section. Basically, other studies looked at this issue as well, and you can see for yourself that in a retrospective and in a randomized control study with a huge group of patients, induction of labor by itself is associated with either equal number of cesarean section, equal rate, or lower cesarean section rate. So basically, even in cases of LGA and macrosomia, and in elective induction by itself, induction may decrease the rate of cesarean section. So basically, until 2016-17, there was a really change in the paradigm that induction of labor is associated with increased risk of a cesarean section. And basically, we know today, if you compare women to expected management, cesarean section is associated with lower risk for cesarean section. But we all waited for a randomized control study. And then in 2018, the New England published the Yariv study, in which nulliparous women were randomized to either induction of labor or expected management. And in this randomized study of more than 3,000 women in each arm, it was shown that the rate of cesarean section was lower in women undergoing induction of labor in comparison to the expected management. And when they did a sub-analysis, they showed that there is no confounders that really change this conclusion, not by age, not by BMI, and not by race or ethnic group. Induction of labor for all in this study, in comparison to expected management, is associated with lower cesarean section. So basically, if that is true, maybe we should consider elective induction labor for all. The rationale for elective induction of labor is that you decrease the rate of stillbirth, you decrease the rate of preeclampsia, there is no meconium aspiration and meconium, which is related to gestational age, and you get less macrosomia with this complication. So basically, what are the risks for stillbirth and infant death just stratifying by gestational age? And it's well known that the rate of stillbirth, the perinatal mortality, and the risk of perinatality just by doing nothing and doing expected management is increasing in relation to advanced gestational age. So basically, after 38 weeks of gestation, we don't really have any problem with lung maturity, and then you can get less perinatal complication as stillbirth and perinatal death just by inducing women. And in a huge study that looked at in the American Journal in 2012, when about more than 40,000 women had induction of labor and compared to more than 250,000 of women having expected management, the rate of both cesarean section, shoulder dystocia, short neonatal outcome as 5-minute Apgar, less meconium aspiration, and NICU admission were observed in women having induction of labor. When another study looked at women above the age of 35, in which this group known that having more perinatal complication, and they randomized about 600 women, low risk, nulliparous above the age of 35 to either induction of labor or expected management, as a primary outcome was the rate of cesarean section. Although the rate of cesarean section was high in both groups, about 32%, the rate of cesarean section was similar and non-significant difference between the induction and the expected management. So if you take this part of subgroup women above the age of 35, induction of labor at 39 weeks of the gestation does not increase the risk of cesarean section, does not adversely affect immediate neonatal outcome, and maybe is associated with decreased rate of stillbirth. What are these data convinced the different societies and the national guidelines? Well, if you look at the ECOG from the United States, they claim very clearly that there is no indication to do induction of labor prior to 39 weeks. However, if you look at the UK, the recommendation a little bit more broad. Induction of labor should not routinely be offered. However, under exceptional circumstances, for example, if the woman's partner is soon to be posted, induction may be considered at or after 40 weeks. And in Canada, induction should not be performed solely because of patient care provider preference. However, they are all waiting for the New England Yariv study to appear, which appeared. However, the Society of Gynecology in Canada did not change their guidelines. In a very nice editorial that was published in 2016, Norman and Stock are looking at this issue, and they are asking themselves if to induce labor by itself, maybe it's convenient and safe in terms of cesarean section, and maybe it's already associated with even better outcome. So just to summarize, we may consider in selected cases at 39 weeks, but if women can choose to have cesarean section just by maternal request, isn't it reasonable that we should offer them or let them choose induction of labor? And if the decision is made for elective induction of labor, the patient may be reassured that this intervention is not associated with increased risk of cesarean section and may improve outcome and decrease the rate of perinatal mortality and stillbirth. Thank you. Jerry, now it's your turn.